So over this video, let's analyze the file and URL for file-based viruses using VirusTotal. So VirusTotal would be that place where you would be looking all the time whenever you would have URL, IP, domain, or file hash, or anything that would be towards finding more on the viruses that would be hitting you, or you would be finding something suspicious. So here you would have a place where you would be typing the URL, IP, or domain, having a file, choosing a browse to upload URL, or just searching. So those would be the three different options. And VirusTotal is very important source. And let's just have something that we will be looking. So I have a file hash to check on a VirusTotal. So I'm going to just copy that one and paste it here, for example. And let's see what this would provide for us. Whenever you would be typing, you would just hit enter or search. That would be, and here would be the results. So you would have something as a score that would show some security vendors that has flagged this as a malicious one. And towards scrolling down, you would be seeing a lot of more information. Who were those security vendors that did the analysis and make this as, identify this as a malicious one? And you would be seeing a lot of different security vendors that, and antivirus or asset, for example, that identify, and Kaspersky, and so on. And this would be one of the important things, details. So you would be knowing more about basic properties of this file hash that has been used, what kind of algorithm has been used, and what type of file type is this one. So it's Win32exe, X executable one, as usually the viruses would be. And another factor would be important, that you would get to know more about the details on the history. So when this file was created, and the last analysis seems to be in use from January this year until May. And then what was used as a portable executable info. So what was then on the header, and so on. And then further sections and imports, and a lot of more details information. People that would get hit by those file hashes, they would be checking all the time on the VirusTotal. So security professionals would do this way, would analyze the results of all that related file hash malwares. And malwares too would be using these hashes. For example, you got to the malware analysis that you would do and reverse engineering on that malware, that you would trying to figure out what was happening on this file hash of that malware. You would be checking on the VirusTotal what the security community has been found when it comes to this file hash. So next we're going to see, whenever we want to conduct it, vulnerability scanning, what kind of type of scanning I'm able to do. So we call it non-intrusive scanning and intrusive scanning, which would be exploitation. So let's see first this non-intrusive scanning, which would be, in this section, we would be identifying the vulnerabilities without exploiting them. So we don't want to touch them. We just wanted to know where those would be sitting. And the first thing would we would be able to find the IP address as a target. Where would be that point that we would target, headed towards what? So whenever you would be engaged on service providing for some companies, someone else, for a customer, a potential client, they would be giving you something, a domain, IP address, something that would be identifying their device, infrastructure, application, whatever it is. And then we're going to just run that basic script that would be port scanning, as we used to run this with an Nmap, as nmap-sv. That would be something that would be looking this way. And that would be a very basic scanning, which would be within that non-intrusive scanning technique. And then the next, I'm just going to stop at this, so I'm going forward. Then we're going to run a vulnerability scan with an Nmap, as we said. So that would be looking at the Nmap --script vul. So that would be something that we're using the whole database of scripting or vulnerabilities of Nmap towards this target IP address. So this would be the next step. And the next step, what would be using Nikto. So Nikto would be one of that tools that would be focused mostly on the web applications that we would be scanning web applications with a potential vulnerability. So we would be doing this way. So that would be something. Or if it's a domain, we would just be typing the HTTP, whatever was the domain of it. So that would be something that would be looking this way. And then the next part would be looking more on the intrusive scanning, which would mean the exploitation. We would exploit. So this would mean using the Metasploit, a well-known tools that we would be using for only exploits. So Metasploit framework is already installed on the Kali Linux and is there for you to use. But please be careful. Use this only for educational purposes or only if you have been authorized by the customer or client that you are assessing security infrastructure for that customer and client. So we're going to see what would be those exploits. So potentially we would assume that we found one of the exploits and we want to use that against this target. So we want to verify that vulnerability. So exploit phase is verification of all those vulnerabilities that has been found. So we have a lot of false positives reported within a penetration testing security assessment. And if we want to make sure and we have that authorization by the owner of that infrastructure or application or whatever it is, device, we would be further engaged on that exploitance. So Metasploit is here. It has its own structure. It has exploits. You see more than 2,000 auxiliaries posts and a lot of things. So we're going to use this case. We're going to go straightforward searching for that exploit that we want to use. VS FTPD. So this would be something that we will be looking as an exploit towards this environment. And that environment is Metasploitable 3 virtual machine that I already set up on this environment. And there were no results found because I wrote it. So here we have 2 found exploits that we search VS FTPD. So one would be as a backdoor and one would be a denial of service attack. So this would be the way that you would be choosing. And what you would need to know, you would just need to know the number or the number of that you want to select one or the other. So in this case, we're going to go with a backdoor. That would mean selecting number 1. And that would be using this way. We would use exploit, for example. Use exploit Unix FTPD VS FTPD _234, something like that. Backdoor, yes, that would be, we're going to use this one. That would be showing this way. So we already are on that path of the exploit. And we want to set our hosts, which would be some parameters that we wanted to specify. This would be specifying the IP address of the destination where we want to use this exploit. That would be specifying. And whenever this would be specified, we could specify either the port and everything, but we would let to the exploit itself to figure it out. Whenever I would execute this command exploit, that would do the exploitance towards this potential vulnerability that we would assume that we found within that Metasploitable 3 as a target environment. So it seems that exploit has ended. So exploit was completed, but we couldn't establish a session towards the target. If that exploit would be successful, we would be able to establish the target, a session towards that, and then we would be on that environment. And whenever the attacker would be on that kind of case situation, they would be able to do whatever they want to do in your environment.